From pickleball tournaments to four-wheeling one-on-one dates and a lot more drama. We are recapping week 4 of The Golden Bachelor. What's up, guys? It's Kayla Thompson. Welcome back to Shared News. Before we dive into this week's Golden Bachelor recap, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any Bachelor Nation news, pop culture news, reality TV, music, and so much more. But without further ado, let's get into this episode of The Golden Bachelor. Right at the top of the episode, we have a visitor coming to bring the ladies their group date card, which was none other than the Theresa, the very first Bachelorette ever, icon of the franchise. She comes and chats with the ladies, drops off the date card, and this was the cutest thing ever, but I promise you, nearly every single woman whose name was called on this date card, they were elated, like cheering and like so happy and so excited to be on the group date. It was just so sweet because we don't normally see that in regular seasons of Bachelor or Bachelorette where everyone wants the one-on-one, which is totally fair, but it was just really nice to see people just so excited to even be on the group date. Leslie's name was not on the date card, so she will be getting the one-on-one date of the episode, but we'll talk about that later. This group date was the Pickleball Championship hosted by Theresa and another very special guest, our next Bachelor, Joey. And I have to say, I can't lie, I was literally freaking out to see Joey because the past few days, oddly, I've just been like, I don't know what it is, but I just miss Joey. Like, I miss seeing him. I'm so excited about his season. And then he walks onto the courts of Golden Bachelor and I kind of lost it. So yeah, super excited to see Joey, and it was just really nice to see him back on our screens. Very early on in this date, I realized how serious pickleball is for these cast members and people like this cast, because Gary starts off by saying, listen, whoever I end up with, you need to know that this will be a part of our lives. Pickleball will be a part of our lives and you need to be okay with that. And I was like, okay, this is really serious. We've got Ellen, who's captain of a league, so she's literally jumping up and down at like the thought of them competing at the end of the date. It was so cute and funny. But honestly, like, everyone had such good spirits on this date. Even though they were definitely into the competition of it, it was still so much fun. And we had some really funny moments from people like April, who was, quote, breaking her ankle for more time with Gary. And she said as much in the ITM, which was just hilarious and just so April of her. But then we had really awesome moments like Sandra, who kind of ended up being the MVP of the whole date because she was diving for her life for these pickleballs and really trying her best. And she said she'd never played before, so that was really, really cool to see. And also we find out from Jesse that Sandra is actually missing her daughter's wedding day today by being here and continuing to date Gary, which is a huge deal. So later on, Gary does bring it up to Sandra at the after party and asks her, like, is everything okay? Like, that was a big decision to make. Like, let's talk about that. And she says that her daughter and her talked about it before she came on the show. And her daughter said, listen, Mom, I found my love. Go find yours, which definitely as a viewer gave me a lot more just peace about it, I guess. Just kind of like, okay, at least they talked about it. Her daughter wanted her to go, because that's a really big deal to miss your kid's wedding. You know what I mean? So maybe there were some other variables to why she kind of decided to continue to stay on the show. We did see Joan last week leave for her daughter. So it was like it was a big deal for Gary that Sandra stuck around to keep this connection with him. And he decided, like, hey, let's FaceTime your daughter and say hey to her, and like I can meet her and it'll be like a nice moment. And it really was a nice moment. And of course Sandra ends up with the rose. But also, of course, on this group date, we did have Theresa and Kathy in attendance. So of course the drama did not end with those two. It's only getting started on this episode. We had Theresa pull her aside to kind of apologize to Kathy again. And essentially Kathy just didn't receive it. I think she just feels like she still doesn't understand or respect the boundaries that Kathy's trying to set about oversharing, about her connection Gary, that whole thing that, you know, they talked about last episode. And Theresa's trying to apologize again, trying to explain herself, and it just escalates with Kathy just ending up being like, listen, moving forward, just zip it. And the tone was just not very forgiving. The tone was a little mean. The tone was pretty harsh. So I understand why Theresa then goes and tells Gary, like, hey, I just, you know, having a hard time with Kathy, ends up telling Gary exactly what Kathy said about the whole zip it thing. And Gary's definitely thrown off, like he's definitely bothered by this. And so he ends up bringing it up to Kathy and they talk about it. Kathy's kind of defending herself. And listen, here's my thoughts. I feel like I said last week, if you watched our recap video, Theresa is definitely oversharing, and I think that's really bothersome. But Kathy also could just let it be water under the bridge. She's obviously aware that it's really bothering her specifically because she said it to Gary herself. I don't feel like I have a strong connection with you like she does, so it gets to me when she talks about it a lot, and etc., etc. So with that being said, it's kind of like you just gotta let it go. I don't really know. It definitely tainted, in my opinion, her relationship with Gary, and so I just felt like it just wasn't worth it to kind of keep having this tiff. But I do understand the boundaries. Like when you're on a show like this, Theresa's gotta kind of rein it in. She's really gotta rein it in. I mean, she's kind of just keeps oversharing, and it's a lot. It's one thing to be like, hey, we had a good conversation, I got a rose, but it's another thing to be like, we talk about our future and blah blah blah. It's just, in my opinion, it's a little much. But anyway, moving on, we had Leslie's one-on-one date. The two go four-wheeling and they get pretty adventurous with each other and also kind of have a lot of like good conversations. So much fun. It was just definitely a good balance and very on brand for Leslie, since she's kind of like this zesty, like peppy personality, like kind of just like really free, and I don't know, it kind of fit her so well. She did open up about her past of being divorced twice now and feeling like she never really found that reliable type of love or that like full love that she really always wanted. She kind of kept saying this phrase of like feeling like Gary has her back and like he's got my back. Like she said that a lot. So I think she's realizing that Gary's got some qualities that she really needs and she really wants in a man. And so she expressed that to him and expressed her feelings for him, and he's got the qualities she's looking for, and Gary definitely reciprocates his feelings. And it goes really well. It's a really solid one-on-one date. She got the rose. I definitely think Leslie is giving Final Four energy, but I don't know if she's the one. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section, but I don't know if I really see them like fitting together outside of this. But I do see why they're interested in each other and into each other. I have to say, before we get to the cocktail party, there was, meanwhile, during Leslie's date, this whole never have I ever type of game that the rest of the cast was playing back at the mansion. And it was just so much fun. It was so funny. They were like eating ice cream and kind of using that as like the never have I ever. And it was just really funny. Like we found out things about April and Susan, and it was so cool to see the cast have so much fun together. And I'm glad they aren't just like sitting around bored. Like they're fun, and I hope that the next cast does more stuff like this. On to the cocktail party. It starts and Gary comes out in a button-up like super casual flannel shirt, and it's still like daylight outside, and I'm kind of like, okay, wait a minute, this is different. Like maybe what's happening is that they're filming a little bit earlier, the cocktail party and rose ceremonies, because they really should not have these people up this late. Honestly, they shouldn't have regular, like, you know, the younger cast members from past seasons and future seasons up that late for rose ceremonies and cocktail parties where they're the people who go home are walking out into like daybreak. Like it's a lot. Like film the cocktail party at like a 4 p.m. and then by like 8, when it gets dark, you can do the rose ceremony. So I feel like that's kind of what happened, which I like that kind of change. But Susan gets some special one-on-one time with Gary since she hasn't had a lot in the past. And it was really cool. Like he gave her this gift of this rose quartz, and it represented empathy and strength, which are two qualities that he feels like Susan really represents, and it reminds him of his wife, and that's like the highest compliment for Gary. So she got really emotional. They shared a good moment. They start kissing, and of course none other than Kathy spots them kissing, and I don't know, it's pretty interesting to me because after the fact, when Susan comes back in, Kathy kind of like digs with like, what's the gift he gave you, and asking questions, and I'm kind of like, okay, Kathy, so now you want to know the details, but with Theresa you don't want to know anything? I don't know. Thoughts? That's just how I feel. Meanwhile, we had Sandra, who wasn't feeling well, and Gary goes and checks on her, which I thought was really sweet. But finally, Ellen gets some big one-on-one time with Gary where she tells him that she's falling in love with him, and he essentially reciprocates the feelings, says that he feels the same way, and it's scary for him as well as it's scary for her. And that's where Gary starts also realizing that these connections are getting very serious and deeper, and it's getting down to the wire. And you know, Nancy actually comes to him and says, hey, it's clear you're feeling more passionately about these group of people. I'm not in that group, so I think it's just time for me to go. An amicable breakup, but yeah, it is getting down to it. They get to the rose ceremony. Nancy, of course, is gone. Kathy ends up going home, which we kind of saw that coming. And April, my queen, goes home as well. And we're left with 6 women before hometowns next week. And I think at this point, it's anyone's game, in my opinion. You guys let me know in the comment section below who you feel like is a lock for Final Four. But I think when it comes to like who's the winner of the season, Ellen maybe is the main front runner, but I don't know. It's still kind of like lost on me on who it is. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And don't forget, before you go, to give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell. Once again, I'm Kayla Thompson. You can follow me on Instagram or on TikTok. I've been getting a lot of love from you guys here on the channel, so please come and say hey to me over there because I would just love that so much. But that's all for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.